Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the Mars in Taurus transit for 2017, which begins on March 10th, 2017 and ends on April 21st, 2017. So anyway, people, here we go. First thing I look at as far as Mars transiting in Taurus, well, you're not going to quite have that same outspoken energy and assertive energy as when Mars is in Aries. Of course, it'll be a lot less combative, and Mars transiting Taurus is a little bit more submissive and passive. But during this transit, what could happen is if you push people to their points of endurance and you're very persistent with something, and you might get an angry, acrimonious outburst when that person reaches their point of endurance. So I think it's important not to push something with somebody. If somebody has said no and has given you a response to that effect, it may be best to just let it go at that point, because even though Mars in Taurus could be much more passive in contrast to, say, Mars in Aries, at some point people will reach their threshold, and the response and the outburst will not be pleasant at all. I think what's about this transit as well, you might find yourself initially being exasperated, say, when you have to wait on something, like say on the line in a supermarket or you're in traffic, because this energy could be a lot slower than most of the other Mars Sun transits. So, but at some point though, you might become a little bit more acclimated to the transit and accept the fact about just being patient during this time, because Mars and Taurus energy can be about this. Now, I think what's interesting too, in the United States, you have this transit falling in the period where a lot of people are getting their taxes done during this time, and a lot of this energy and this vitality that Mars has during this transit can very well be about things connected with finances, people getting their financial records together, their documents, determining what they made for the past fiscal year, and getting their returns done. I think what's interesting too is that when this transit ends on April 21st, 2017, and that's at the beginning stage of the Sun transiting Taurus, so people could be putting a lot of this energy into things pertaining to a financial matter. It could be the formulation too, for a lot of people, of new financial of ideas, and perhaps whether it's business ideas or money-making ventures. And then perhaps during when the Sun, around the time when the Sun enters Taurus, when Mars has hit the end of its transit in Taurus, you might see the people following through on a lot of this, these plans they had during the time when Mars was transiting Taurus. So, and of course, the Sun is where one needs to shine, and then at that point in time, Sun enters Taurus, people might want to shine more in those areas connected with money. So, the thing too about this is that you might see a lot more people doing things connected with Taurus-like activities, such as gardening, cultivating, people getting in touch with stockbrokers, people doing things associated with things that are sustained and are about longevity, things that are enduring, people that are working very methodically, very deliberately in order to have something that is lasting. Mars in Taurus is not one to act in spurts. It's one that's about very plotting, very deliberate and persistent energy, and one that it's about pacing oneself during this period, being able to conserve the energy very well. So that is some things to look at as far as the Mars in Taurus transit to 2017 goes. this also could be a time too. I mean, Mars is of course also associated with sexual nature. Now this could be a period too where you could be more patient with sexual lovers, and you may also feel more sensual during this time, more sensual and demonstrative with them as well. And this could be a time where if you hadn't shown it before, you might show a lot, be more steadfast and loyal in matters connected with a sexual lover during this period. Now, Mars transiting Taurus is really about showing this a lot of this Taurus energy, such as showing that loyalty just in general, and being loyal and dedicated to your actions as well during this time. And it could be strongly about, as I stated before, about formulation of financial plans. It could be energy that one is devoting into making more money during this time. You might find more people trying to find a second job perhaps during the time Mars is transiting Taurus. You find more people we're putting a lot more energy into making money. It might be something where you might find more people working longer hours, longer durations in order to generate income during this time. And it's also Mars, I mean, Taurus energy is about perseverance as well. It's like if you're some people that are doing their whatever action it is they're involved with during this time, or whatever action one takes, if something doesn't fail, whatever someone's trying to do, it's kind of like if you fail one time, you're going to keep trying. It's not one where you have, like, say, the Mars and Aries being very impatient, or Mars transiting Gemini, which of course could be very restless. This is a period, Mars and Taurus is about stick-to-itiveness. So if whatever job you're working at, whether it's troubleshooting computers or whether you're doing landscaping or construction, if something doesn't go right in whatever in your job and in some action that you're doing associated with your job, you're more likely to be more patient with it as far as the outcome goes during this time. So anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the Mars in Taurus transit of 2017. And stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my series on I'm going to actually be starting my series on the Black Moon Lilith in the houses. Well, two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.